Hello everyone and welcome back. It's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I am back with a brand new tutorial video for this particular bracelet, which is inspired by the Beads to Live By monthly subscriptions in their 2-hole beads variety and their monthly 11/0 round seed beads subscription package. I'll leave the link for those subscriptions right down below if you're interested, and also a full list of materials as well as links to where you can pick up more of these types of beads, including the 2-hole Czech glass silky beads, 4mm fire polished Czech glass rounds, and you could probably also substitute those for 3 or 4mm pearls or bicones if you'd rather try that out. And we'll also be using 2 different colors of the size 11/0 round seed beads. I also want to point out that both of these were made with different brands of seed beads. So the one that you see towards the top with the crystal silky beads, that one was made with either Toho or a Czech glass seed bead. So they're just a hair larger than the ones used in the bottom example, which are Miyuki. And that's just to say that you can use pretty much any seed beads to make this particular design, as long as you're using a more high quality brand like Preciosa or Toho or something similar that has a very consistent bead shape and size. The bracelet that we're making today will come to about 7.5 inches, and that includes the clasp portion. So you can keep that in mind when you're making yours if you want to make yours a little bit bigger or smaller. That 7.5 inch bracelet is going to be done using 11 silky beads in total. And if you were to want something a little bit bigger, that's say closer to 8.5 inches, you can use 12 silky beads and just extend the length with the steps that we're about to go through. For beading thread today, I'll be using the 6-pound 0.006 inch diameter Fireline and a size 11 beading needle. And besides those items, you'll want, of course, a clasp and some jump rings. I'll also be using 2 wire guards to finish off either end of the bracelet, and you're welcome to do the same thing with the wire guards or just finish off the ends of your bracelet by some other means, like creating a simple loop of seed beads and sewing your clasp right in. So what you can do now is just go ahead and thread your beading needle with a comfortable length of beading thread, gather up your materials, and we will jump into this tutorial. So for the 2 colors of seed beads we're going to be using, we have a color A and a color B. Color A is going to be your main color. It's going to make the bulk of the bracelet, with color B being more of the accent. So just decide which color you want to be which before we get started. And also, I won't be using a stop bead today, but you're more than welcome to do so if you feel more comfortable. I recommend everyone just do what is best for them. Alright, so we're going to get started with one of our silky beads. And some silky beads have 2 different sides, and some are the same on both sides. So if you have one that you're using that is different on one side than the other, you're going to want to pay a little bit more attention to how you're stringing these on. For me, this one is the same other than the fact that the coating shifts to slightly different colors. But other than that, they're the same on both sides. And we're going to start by just sewing up through the right-hand hole of one of our silky beads. So if you're using one that has 2 sides, just have it facing up. And you can go ahead and string this down, bringing this towards your tail thread, and leave yourself about a 5-inch tail or so that you'll be weaving back in just a little bit. Once you have that strung on, you can pick up 2 seed beads A, 1 seed bead B, and 2 seed beads A. And then I'm just going to hold the tail thread and the silky bead with my fingers. I'm very used to doing that, but like I said, if you want to use a stop bead, feel free. I'm going to then sew back around and through the open hole of that silky bead. And I'm just holding this together and pulling those seed beads so that they're going to wrap around this corner of the silky. And pull that a little bit and leave myself that tail. And I'll be making a 1/2 hitch knot in just a moment, so it's going to act as a bit of a stopper. And now, like we just did, you're going to pick up again 2 of your seed bead A, 1 seed bead B, and 2 more A. Now I'm holding the tail thread and my silky again, and I'm going to sew down through the other hole of the silky bead. and then just pull this tight so that we have those seed beads now wrapping around opposite sides of the silky bead. And once again, holding these in place, and I'm coming out of the right hand hole there of the silky. I'm going to go up through the 2 seed bead A. I'm going to skip the seed bead B and then sew through the next 2A. That's going to complete our corner just a little bit better there. And now we're coming out of that seed bead, we're going to complete the other 2 corners. So again, we're going to pick up 2 seed bead A, 1 B, and 2A. But this time, we're going to sew directly through the next 2 seed beads that we get to in color A. We're going to skip over color B and then sew through the next 2 color A. Pull that nice and tight. And we'll do that one more time to complete this corner. So 2 seed beads in color A, 1 B, and 2 in color A. I'm just holding these all with my fingers, going through the next 4 seed beads A, skipping over the color B. So I'm coming out of this 4th one there. That's where I'm going to make my first little half hitch knot to secure what we have put in place. So just pulling that tight and holding it together, I'm just going to go underneath the thread bridge in between those 2 seed beads, make a loop, and sew through the loop. Then pull that tight, and that's going to secure this for now. And now we'll sew through the next 3 seed beads and continue sewing through the next 5. So we're coming out of the next corner, seed bead B. So this is what you should have so far, and right now I'm going to put a needle on my tail thread and weave that back in to get it out of the way for purposes of the tutorial. And you can see my working threads coming out of that seed bead B at the end of this silky bead piece. So I'll be right back and we'll pick up from there. All right, so with the tail thread out of the way, we're going to start our next step, which is just a continuation of this chain that we're starting. And this is something that we're going to be repeating over and over again until we get the length of the bracelet that we want to achieve, which in this case will be 11 silky beads long. So starting with what we're about to do, you'll just keep repeating this in the same manner. And once you're coming out of the seed bead B at the corner, you'll pick up 3 more color B and then sew back through that initial seed bead that you were coming out of. And we're making that little tiny seed bead loop, which is going to sit in between each of these silky bead sections. Once you've done that, you can sew through the next 2 seed beads so that we get to the other side of that little mini loop. So we went through 1 and we're going to go through 1 more. And pull tight. You can get your next silky bead ready if you'd like to. And we're going to continue our chain by picking up 2 of our seed bead A. And I'll be sewing through this right hand side of the silky since I'm coming down out of that seed bead. So we're basically completing half of that seed bead surround that it's going to have. It's going to sit just like that. Now we'll complete that side, which means we need 2 of our A, 1 B, and 2 A again. And now return through the open hole of the same silky bead and pull that towards the other beadwork just like that. Now we're going to complete this section by picking up 2 more of our seed bead A. And we're going to connect that by sewing down that seed bead B where we started all of this. Again, just keep pulling this tight after each step. And now we want to continue sewing through our next 2 seed bead A's. And then we'll complete the seed bead section right here where it's open by picking up 2 seed bead A, 1 B, and 2 A again. And then just sew through the next 4 seed bead A. Skipping over the B. And repeat that on this side. So 2 seed bead A's, 1 B, and 2 A's. First sew through those 2 seed bead A's on the other side. Then skip over this time that seed bead B and continue sewing through the 4 seed bead A's. On these corners you can sew through the B and then sew through the next 5 beads to be coming out of the seed bead color B on the other end. So repeat that step now 9 more times, so you have a total of 11 if that's the length that you're going with, starting with making that next little loop of color B seed beads. And I'll also try to add chapters to this video so it'll make it easy for you to go back and back up the video just to that point if you need a refresher on what we just did. So once you have the length down that you want to have, we'll meet back and continue on with the next steps. I'll be coming back after the 11th Silky has been added and the seed beads around it in the same placement like we have here. So keep going, have fun, and I'll meet you right back. And welcome back everyone. So your bracelet should be starting to look like this with the length of your initial chain all done. And I'm coming out of this last seed bead B right there. I'm going to pick up 3 more of color B. And we're going to go back through that initial color B again. So just as if we were going to just keep going on with our next little loop, but we're going to finish with this loop. So we're going to go through all those beads and back around through that first color B again. And then we're going to sew through the next 4 color A and 1 color B. To be coming out of this one right here at the corner on one side of the bracelet. So at this time we're going to work on just one side of the bracelet, then we'll be swinging around and completing the other side just like what we're about to do in a mirror image. So this is something else you'll be repeating all the way to the other side of the bracelet. Once you're coming out of the color B on the corner, pick up color A, a color B, and a color A again. And once you have those 3 on, you can pull them down. And you're just going to be creating some little picots that attach to that color B that's on the corner. So when you sew back through that, you just get that little mini loop on this side this time. Now you can continue sewing through the next 3 color A seed beads. So we stopped right before the last one that we get to. And this is where we're going to start using some of our fire polish beads. So once you're down here, we're going to start to attach some of those in between the silky bead sections. And we'll begin by picking up a seed bead A, then a fire polish. Then we're going to pick up an A, B, and A. And you can go ahead and pull all those down. And those last 3 seed beads are going to be wrapping around our fire polish. So at this time, you can just sew back through the fire polish only. And you see how it wraps those 3 around the fire polish bead. Then you can just grab onto that and slide it down so that it's tight to your beadwork. Once that's done, just pick up a color A again And then sew up through the opposite side of the next section, skipping that first seed bead A and going up through the next 3, and also going through the seed bead color B. So you'll be completing these steps all the way down to the other side of your bracelet. Once again, you'll create that little picot that attaches to this seed bead color B, and then you'll add another fire polish down here in the trough in between the silky bead sections, wrapping your 3 seed beads around that, and then sewing back up to your next seed bead B. So once again, you can back up the video if you need to, but just continue on until you reach the other side of your bracelet, and at that point we'll meet back and continue on with the next steps. And welcome back. So you should have something that looks like this, with one side of your bracelet having those extra beads on the outer portion. And just take a moment with your hands and just smooth that out so it's nice and straight, and make sure you didn't miss any seed beads around any of those fire polish. And with your thread coming out of the final color B seed bead on this end, we're going to make our picot on this side. So we'll be picking up 3 of our color B and sewing back through that initial color B seed bead that we're currently coming out of. And then to resume what we were just doing, we'll be sewing through the next 4 color A seed beads plus the next color B to get us in position to continue on. And once again, you'll just do the exact same thing, just on the other side, all the way to the other side of your bracelet. Starting by making that little picot that's gonna sit right above this color A seed bead, just like we were doing. And also adding those little fire polish sections in between those lower areas. So once again, just keep going just like you did until the other side of your bracelet. And at that point, we'll meet back and continue on with the next steps. And welcome back again. At this point, both sides of your bracelet should match. And I've got my needle to where it's coming out of this seed bead right here on the side of that picot that's on the end. And that's where, if you're using a wire guard, you can go ahead and pick one of those up and attach it to that end before we continue on with a little bit more beadwork. So once I slide that down, I'm going to return through the other side of the wire guard. And then just sew down through the other seed bead B on the opposite side. And that secures the wire guard in place. And then we can just sew around that section again 2 or 3 more times to secure it. So I'm just going to go around that and back through the seed beads as well. And you can do that one more time if you want to. And then you want to follow your thread path again through the seed beads. So just continue on. I'm going to continue off to the right. I'm going to go through the seed bead B underneath that picot and then come out of the seed bead color A that's right after that. And also just take a moment again to just smooth everything out and just take your fingers, make sure all of those beads are in place like they're supposed to be. Because for this next step, we want to maintain a pretty equal tension on both sides of the bracelet, not pulling too terribly tight, but definitely not wanting to have too much looseness or any gaps either. And once you're coming out of that seed bead color A, like we are, you can pick up 2 more color A, and you can bring those down. And then when you look over at the next fire polish that you get to, those 3 seed beads that are surrounding it, you can go through all 3 of those. Now that you're on the other side of that, pick up 2 more seed beads in the color A. And then look to your next section, which is the part with our next picot there above the silky bead. And you're going to sew through the seed bead A, the seed bead B, and the seed bead A. So those 3 right underneath that picot. And pull. So once again, we're just adding 2 seed beads on each of these sections before and after the fire polish bead. we can pick up again 2 more and then sew through those 3 seed beads on top of the next fire polish and pull. And then pick up 2 more. And then looking to your next section with the picot, go through the 3 seed beads that are directly below it and pull. So keep doing that all the way to the other end of your bracelet. At that point, we'll meet back and put on our next wire guard, and then you'll be returning back the other way, doing the exact same thing that you did here. So let's keep going, and I'll meet you back once we reach this end of our bracelet. And welcome back. Now we're in position to get our next wire guard in place. So I'm coming out of this seed bead B right here. I just need to go up 1 more so we can match our other side. Go around that wire guard again, just like we did. And secure that to the opposite seed bead. And we'll sew around that again. And then you're just going to continue sewing off to the right, like we did before, through the next seed beads until you are coming out of the one that is directly after that seed bead B, below that first picot. And also, like you see here, the bracelet is still nice and straight. I didn't pull it too tight, I did pull it snug, but that's about it. And we'll just follow suit with the other side of the bracelet. As you're adding those beads in, pull it tight enough to where it's straight and matches the other side, but not too tight to where it might start to want to curl a tiny bit. So keep going, and then we'll meet back on the other side. All right, so once again, give it one final smooth out, and then when you're happy with the tension, you can start making several half-hitch knots. I'm going to make one right there in between those 2 seed beads and proceed a little bit further. I'll make one in this corner, going under that thread bridge and through the loop. Proceed through a few more beads and make one more right there. And finally, I'll just sew through a few more beads. And then trim off the excess thread. And now we can attach the clasp. I have one side on, and we'll do the other side, picking up one of these jump rings, and we'll give that a little twist and pop that on the wire guard as well as the bar portion, and then just twist that closed. There we go. So that wraps it up for this tutorial. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. As a reminder, I will leave the link for the subscription beads to live by right down below the video. Again, they have the 2-hole beads and the seed beads subscriptions that they send out monthly. And in the 2-hole beads subscription that they provide, every month they send you a selection of silky beads just like the ones you see here in a new fun color scheme. If you also sign up for their seed bead subscription, they'll send you some that coordinate with the 2-hole beads for that month. So that would more than likely give you what you need to make one of these projects outside of those 4mm fire polish beads. But I'll leave the materials list right down below the video. That way you can find out how much of everything that you need, as well as examples where you can find some of these items if you don't already have what you need in your bead stash. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching and for joining me. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you plan to make this, or if you have made it, I'd love to hear about it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel while you're here. I'd love to have you back. Don't forget to give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share this tutorial with your other beading friends. That's all I have for now. Until next time, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and as always, happy beading!